Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, we were graced yesterday afternoon, not morning. Normally they do them a little earlier, but with the Exorcist Believer trailer. And we are going to take a look at it today, give you our thoughts, reactions, all that good stuff. I did get to check this out a couple days ahead of time because I went and saw Oppenheimer this weekend. So if you saw our little YouTube short or checked us out on TikTok, yes, you did get to basically get some bare bones my thoughts. And I did tease that we would probably end up discussing this once Luke got a chance to see it, and that is what we are here to do. I said that it's pretty much, just to reiterate my raw thoughts, was that it seems to be about on par with what I expected. I am a little bit concerned that this is probably just going to end up being a big nothing by the end of this because we know it's a trilogy. We did get the title announcement for the next chapter, which I believe is coming out in 2025, is what they said. So it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, okay, is this really just going to be like a lot of setup with very little payoff? I don't know. So, Luke, your raw thoughts, reactions before we get into the trailer here. What did you think when you first checked out the trailer?
Well, we covered this a little bit on the Sunday scaries before even seeing the trailer. And with that, my hesitation with this is that it's going to be pretty slow moving, and it may be a slog, especially if it pushes that 2 hour or even past that 2 hour runtime. And I mean, looking at the trailer, my initial thoughts are really like you. It's pretty much what I expected. It didn't wow me. It seems pretty cookie cutter so far. I think, as we move toward the ending portion of the trailer, it gets a little more stylistic, but I don't know if that's just for the trailer or we're going to really push into the kind of more of a stylistic version of David Gordon Green. I don't know. That part intrigued me, as we'll get into it a little bit. But overall, I mean, the setup so far, it seems like it's just going to be just that in this. Is a lot of setup, probably slow moving, which a lot of these kind of, I would say maybe religious horror, supernatural elements like that tend to be, and then it kind of all falls, last half hour. But with this as a trilogy, I don't even know if we expect that after we walk out of Believer.
Yeah, and I guess we'll get into it a little bit more with this, but there is a piece of me that, just if I was marketing this film or had any creative hand in this film and I could sway a studio, how I would have probably done this because again, we have no clue how long or how this movie's going to play out. We just know from the trailer what we've seen here, and it kind of does hint to this whole thing of the girls going missing and then turning back up. I almost would like it if this movie ended up being primarily, and again, I feel like it already is ruined because of the trailer. If it was like it was like a Gone Girl or something where it's like they are searching for these girls and they're trying to figure out what's going on, and that's most of the movie. And it'd be a hell of a thing. I wish they would have done this, but like if this movie would have just been called Believer, and then you're watching it and you're in the theater and you're getting there, and then all the people or the lady from The Exorcist shows up, and then all the dots start getting connected, and then you're like, oh fuck, this is a sequel to The Exorcist, and then it kind of goes in. I thought that could have been a lot of fun, but that's not the world that we live in. And I think maybe my brain goes to that just because I was so like you said, not very wowed by anything. I think that stylistically, yes, the end of the trailer has some cool things, but it's just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it seemed very lukewarm, very basic thus far. I like your idea, and I think The Exorcist truly does mean something when you look at film overall to especially horror fans. But I think right now at this point, when you look at more original properties that we've seen kind of nail it at the box office, as we have Talk to Me coming up, which isn't based off of anything,
Mhm.
audiences show up, especially in 2023, for horror. Everyone wants to be scared. So even not having The Exorcist, I mean, I think maybe you'll get a little bit more of an audience, but I don't know if it's going to be a significant difference. I think if you market this as just Believer and with the subject matter, if you wow us with the trailer and then let us figure out that this is tied into the Exorcist universe as we are in the theater, and then word of mouth gets around,
Yeah.
I think maybe that could do its job rather than marketing this as The Exorcist right out of the gate.
Yeah, no, I only again, it could just be because I wasn't completely blown away by this, but it could also be the fact of just like, you know, say what you will, and this movie was already way into production by the time we all got our eyes on Halloween Ends. Coming off of that, and we'll get into this a little bit more, there is some discourse I'm seeing on social media from a lot of people who are kind of in the same boat as us. It has to do a little bit with the trailer, but also a lot of people mentioning they're just not that big on seeing David Gordon Green's approach to this property post Halloween Ends. So I think that that movie is going to have a little bit more of a residual effect than I think that they were anticipating here. And so people are kind of just like, I don't know, do I really want to commit and get into this only to be, have the rug pulled out from under me again? So it's like I'm a little bit surprised that that's still having this kind of effect.
And one of the things that I think does weigh on audiences, just coming out of a Halloween trilogy and going right into an Exorcist trilogy, because the audience already knows, just like Halloween, we're not in here for a sprint, we're in here for a marathon. So we're already locked in for 3 different films, and knowing the trajectory of how Halloween went, I think there's always going to be that fear of, is this going to be something that's going to have a good payoff by that third installment, or is this going to be something that's going to leave me completely underwhelmed and feel like I didn't get any closure with the characters I have been with for this marathon?
Absolutely. But alrighty, why don't we hop into this trailer, take a look at it, and give some more of our raw thoughts as we watch it play out. All right, so we're hopping into things here. I did, I guess, like, again, this really goes into my theory of how I would have done this, but I do like the way they cut this trailer
Yeah.
right here, where it's like, yeah, they're going into the school, and the next thing you know, they're just gone. They're missing.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting, especially you saying, if it was more so just finding them throughout this, and then maybe so much like maybe the last half hour, which I guess maybe, I don't know, the way this is cut, a lot of this stuff could be happening in the back half of the film. I don't know.
Yeah, I just, again, when you throw Exorcist so up front with everything, I feel like you could find a good balance maybe where it's like, yeah, let's do like let's do like the first 40 minutes or so, depending, again, if this is 2 hours
Yeah,
of them looking for them and then they show up and this is all the last half. But I guarantee you that's probably just going to be like the first 20 minutes to 30 minutes.
yeah.
They're going to get found, and then the rest of this is just going to be them
Listen, I'm trying to
going
be
through here.
optimistic here, but it's like, regardless of how that happens, you've already spoiled it so much here that we already know kind of how the film's going to play out, at least outline wise. Of we're going to find them and then kind of move into the whole Exorcist supernatural element here.
Yeah. And I did not catch this my first time watching this. I thought that she was covered in blood, but no, actually, that's the wine. So technically blood, but it's like, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I just assumed it was blood as well. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and
I do love that they keep playing the theme a little bit.
Yes.
This. I think that was well done.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like nothing in here is, again, really wowing me to the fact of like, okay, yeah, I kind of get the formula. Another person on Twitter did point out that David Gordon Green really does have a distinct formula of bringing back older actress. She writes a book, and it's she comes back to fight the demon one more time, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, I get, now that you've put that in my head, I'm a little less impressed.
Yeah, and honestly, it does really feel like this is a little more ceremonial than anything. Whereas, like, having Jamie Lee Curtis back in Halloween, I think meant a little more because there was more of a story to tell. Where this one seems like, okay, let's shoehorn some original characters in here because this is The Exorcist.
Yeah, and we're definitely downplaying it a little bit. I think that there is some cool energy here, in just like, especially like these sequences.
Yes, yeah.
Like you
These
said,
are
as
my
you get to the
favorite.
end of this trailer, you get to the more stylistic stuff. But again, I know this black and white shit is not going to be in the movie, but that's a very creepy image. I like that face a lot. And it's just, I don't know. I guess being a little bit more cynical than I'd like to be. You know, I just feel like at the end of the day, I need to sit in the theater and watch this before I can really sit here and say, you know, how this is going to turn out. Because I still think that I went into this saying on the Sunday Scaries, this is a bit of a wild card for me right now. And I still believe that. I'm not blown away by this trailer, but I still think that, you know, there is a chance. And I want to give David Gordon Green that chance.
Yeah, and we've both mentioned it, where we are more so removed from the Exorcist franchise. We're not diehards in any sense. For me, I'm going in to hopefully be entertained. I just don't want to sit through a 2 hour plus film where it is a slog, and I definitely feel that runtime an hour into it, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
waiting for this film to be over with. If they can take me on a ride and I can feel at least somewhat fulfilled by the credits rolling, I will be happy with this because, going into Halloween, there was a huge sense of hesitation because we both absolutely love that franchise. We both grew up with it. We love slashers. Whereas The Exorcist, the original came out, absolute classic. The other ones we haven't seen, and it was never anything that I was clamoring to see. There are, I believe there's collections out there with all the Exorcists in there, and there's multiple variations of. I think what did we just get the 4K of the third one?
Yeah, on Scream Factory just put it out.
Yeah, and it's like, those are just ones. Most of them are free, and a lot of streaming services. I think Tubi has a couple, and it's just something that I've never felt the need to click on and watch for an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever the runtime is. It just isn't something that has 100% intrigued me. So, like
Mm-hmm.
going into Believer, I'm ready to at least be moderately entertained is really my hope, and that I can feel like, okay, I'm ready for that next installment.
Yeah. And so to kind of dive a little bit more into this, again, this is what I kind of like. I would really like to spend a lot of time with the buildup here of, you know, what happened to these girls? Did they do this to themselves? Or it seems like some kind of ritual of some sort is being hinted at happening here.
I marketing wise, doubt they would have ever have done this, but would you have preferred? And it's awkward for me to say this because I think after post possession here is some of the best stuff in the trailer. I feel, but if they would have kept this more so a mystery throughout here and did not show any images of the children being possessed, would you have been on board with that if it was just like these girls have gone missing? Yes, it's called The Exorcist Believer. We kind of know where it's going to go, but we don't, like, there is no conclusion of, oh, we found them 3 days later. Would you have been on board for that?
I would have. I totally would have. I don't think a lot of people would have, though. I don't think general audiences would have found that very impressive. General audiences, I think, need the imagery of, you know, like the Reagan type demon or, you know, possession imagery to really sell them back into it. But like, you know, as a horror fan, and I think a lot of horror fans would totally be on board for you with that idea of just kind of really keeping it hidden. We know the movie's coming out, but you're also talking to somebody for, you know, especially big studio tentpole things like this, where it's like, I don't need a trailer. Like, announce a cast, announce this. Like, if you're telling me that another Exorcist movie's coming out, you know, just give me a director, give me a cast, give me some writers and a poster, and that's all I would need. I would still go see it. I would still check it out. I'd prefer it because I like to go into movies as blind as possible when they're big studio tentpole projects. If it's like an independent, you know, feature, I could use a trailer so I can get a sense for what I'm going into. But if it was like, but then again, some of those not really, because like if it was a Robert Eggers film, just the director alone, I'm gonna go see it. You know, Ari
Yeah.
Aster, you know, stuff like that. But general audiences, it doesn't work like that for them. But if you
Yeah.
told me, you know, Exorcist Believer, Mission Impossible, you know, 8, 9, 10, whatever, it's like, yeah, I'll just give me a poster. I'll go see it because it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't need to know what you're setting me up for. I will go. You know what I mean? But again, not a lot of people are like that. So it's like, I get it. But that idea I would have loved. But I just don't think audiences would have liked it.
Yeah, and it's such this interesting dichotomy where it's like IP is everything in Hollywood, but we can't let the IP speak for itself. We have to show more so for a general audience, which doesn't necessarily make any sense. If you're really going to bank on that IP, then you don't need to show as much. Like, I think I would have been happy, them just kind of showing these girls going missing. And then with this dynamic of, close up shots, you don't even have to show them possessed. If you show, a little bit later of just close ups of even the girl walking into the church or something like that. I mean, to kind of keep us guessing of, we don't know exactly where this is going 100% and when they're going to be found. I think could have been interesting, especially, you look at those movie posters, and if you would have just used a cross, instead of actually showing the visuals of these possessed children, I think, it would have been just as effective, to keep a
Yeah,
really less is more with this.
the cross, maybe some eyes,
Yes, like very
in the
close
background,
up
very
stuff.
very
Yeah.
stuff like, yeah, that would have done a lot for me. And I do like that they've really much paid attention to detail of trying to stay as close to the original with like the cuts and things like this too, because like they do have those cuts and cracks, and Reagan very much in that. This is all kind of stuff that I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with this, because I think that for a movie that we know isn't going to be the big payoff, which I think is why we're pushing so hard for the mystery angle of it, like trying to figure out what's going on. If they give us, like, it would be great if the whole movie was really just them kind of missing the girls, looking for the girls. They find them, and then while the possession stuff is starting, we kind of start to see maybe shades or get into flashes of what exactly happened. Did they do this to themselves? Were they messing around with something they shouldn't have been messing around with? Is there somebody else here who kidnapped them and gave them up to what's the demon's name in this? I
I
forget his name.
that
But yeah, no, it's he's the famous one with the big white face. So I think that would have done a lot for me here. This is the stuff again where it's like I just don't know, man. I don't know how I'm gonna fully feel about just the two girls being creepy and doing this, because you're right. We see this in like so many different possession films. We saw it recently with oh god, Pray for the Devil, where they
Yes.
did something similar, where they're walking around like a medical facility and she's acting all weird and strange. And this is the stuff that I'm just kind of already checked out at. It's like I need to know what the overall story is going to be here. I love that imagery. I love the dead
Yeah.
horse. I like the idea of them setting up almost this like infection angle and what it's bringing to like the entire world. I have no clue what that symbolizes, what that means, but like I like the idea of just all these like horrific things. Like I would think it would be awesome if like during the search they find this.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. Like, as you were talking, like I would have loved almost like a prisoner's angle on this, where it's
Mm,
like we don't know exactly, and there is
absolutely,
suspects, and like
absolutely.
weird shit is happening throughout the town that doesn't make any sense, and even you can even have one of the girls get away, and then kind of where you actually get to find that second girl. You know what I mean? As to where they have been and things like that, I think could have been interesting to kind of just have this offbeat, awkward kind of storytelling where it's like they're trying to solve a case, and then it turns out that there is no one actually, and whatever we uncover eventually is what we uncover at the end of this.
Prisoners is like the perfect representation for what I would like this movie to be.
Yeah,
And I hate to say that. And I mean, it does. I will say, like, stylistically, like color palette and everything, it seems like David Gordon Green is definitely pulling from that a little bit here with the forest and just the grays and the greens and stuff. So it's like but like, yeah, that would be amazing. Like, imagine if it was just called Believer, and we have this whole angle of these missing girls. We think it's a serial killer, and they market it as a serial killer the whole time. And there might be a couple hints in the trailer to get people speculating. I'm like, oh, is this an Exorcist movie? And then we find out as the like halfway point, the girls are found, and then it starts getting into the Exorcist shit. Like, so good. Would have been
yep,
so good. And we haven't even seen the movie, and I'm already talking shit. Like,
I know,
it's
right?
like I feel so bad, but it's like it is what it is. And I'm sorry, this just doesn't impress me. This
Yeah,
whole part here just feels so. We're doing it again. We've been
yeah.
here. We've done that.
It really just feels like another possession film to me. Like
Yeah.
until we get to that back half, it doesn't.
Hmm.
For me, it doesn't really take off at all.
Yeah. It's like this doesn't feel unique or original. And it's like I really, honestly, I'm I hate to say it, but I'm kind of dreading that whole sequence of her walking into the
Yeah.
in there because it just feels so boring. And obviously she's spelling Reagan there, so I wonder what that's going to be. I assume that it's going to turn into this whole thing, especially with them bringing her back. Of that, it's like and just so everybody knows, I know I'm not too well versed in Exorcist, but I know this is not Reagan. But it's one of those things where it's like I feel like they're gonna kind of if this is the demon or whatever from the first one taking over again, the whole revelation is going to be, oh, it wants Reagan again for whatever reason, like it wants her, all that stuff. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which I do like that, when we get into the mother stuff and things like that, I think was a nice little
Hmm.
nod.
Yeah, and it's just I'm wondering too. I see like they're using seems like they're going to be using some different cultural methods here.
Yeah.
I don't know. This could be because like we see this other sequence with these cars crashing in what looks to be like it could be South Africa or something, or the Middle East somewhere. So it's one of those things where I'm like, maybe this is like a part of the cold opener or whatever. Because I'll pause it when we get there, so you'll see what I'm talking about. Um, but yeah, again, I don't know. Do you think that I just had this thought come across? Do you think they're gonna kill her? Because
Um,
I don't believe, if I remember correctly, I believe she's only contracted for this film.
I could see it. I think, you need something substantial to really happen, in terms of, you need if you're gonna bring one of these, legacy characters back, I think at some point you're going to need that payoff. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Halloween, getting into that was like, we were kinda waiting and waiting before, and sometimes we didn't even actually get a payoff. So it's like, I think out of the gate, to especially if this movie is a lot of setup, I think you're going to need that exclamation point by the end of this film to at least make audiences feel like they have seen something in the first installment here. So I could easily seeing her being killed off.
Yeah, and then Reagan comes back in the sequels.
Yeah,
So it's
honestly,
like,
I could it would not surprise me with, the way, David Gordon Green uses legacy characters. I could totally see that.
and that is the problem, Luke. You just said it. It would not surprise me. It's like we're
Yeah.
we're already just getting all of this shit figured out. Like I don't feel like anything's gonna blow my mind.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here, and then yeah, I'm gonna try to pause it at that point so we can get a better look at it here. Um, yeah, the dog's fighting. There it is. So like, yeah, this sequence. Let's just get back to here. So yeah, like she's freaking out doing her thing. The dog's fighting again. More of that. Evil has kind of come back. It's corrupting the surrounding area. I kind of like that approach. So you see what I'm saying? Like this looks like we're in like it could be. What does that say there? I can't read it.
I can't see it
I
either.
believe it's in a different language. So if we could figure out if anybody knows where this is and where this seems to be taking place, I think this would have to do with the cold open, or it could be the end of the film.
Yeah.
Maybe we find out that Reagan is driving the car, and then she's like some badass, and she's like, "I'm gonna shoot that fucking demon in the head," kind of thing. Like,
That's how we do it. It's gonna
there
be
we
like
go.
that Texas
She's like
Chainsaw Massacre.
John Wick, but yeah, see again, it's like I don't know. I think this is intentionally blurred. I can't tell who that is,
Yeah.
but it doesn't look like any of our characters from the early half of the trailer. So,
I could easily see that be like either a flashback or something as to why this is all happening.
mhm,
The kind of that connective tissue in some sense.
yeah. And see again, like I like that imagery. I
Yeah.
do. I think like this stuff's good, very Nightmare on Elm Street in a sense. You'll know the shot. That's really cool. Um, looks like all our teeth came out too. I did
Yeah.
notice that, which I like that. That's pretty neat. I love this.
Yeah. I
Uh,
love that silhouette. It looks
yeah, I
great.
think that's really great with the police lights and everything. And see, like that's the thing, man. David, he's got a great eye. We
Oh
said it
yeah.
on Sunday Scaries where it's like he's a very competent director. And I just don't think that as far as a writer goes for horror, I just don't think that he does anything all that special, and
And
it
then
kind of sucks.
is this
Oop.
if I'm remembering correctly, I should have pulled it up before we. This is David Gordon Green, Danny McBride. Is it Scott Teems as well? Are they all
I
doing this?
believe Scott Teems is also a part of this one. Let me double check that
Which
while we're
they all did
talking.
Halloween Kills, I think, right?
Yes, they did. I believe Scott Teems also did Ends. Oh no, he didn't, because they had the other guy.
The gentleman who wrote the novel, right? He was part of that
Hmm.
team. Scott Teems just did something recently. Is it Insidious, maybe The Red Door?
I believe so. Yes.
Um, so I don't know how this one's gonna work. I David Gordon Green visually, I think is great. I think he struggles in a writing sense, especially more so when it is these IPs. When he does his own properties, I mean, we talked about the Sunday Scaries. I think he has a handful of really great ones. I think there, but I now thinking about it, I'm not sure. I never looked in to see if he wrote those. I'm assuming he did, but I don't know 100% if he did. But
Yeah.
visually, I think he's got great technique. He does set up shots beautifully, but I don't know about writing.
Yeah, I just looked into it, brother. Scott Teems. You want to know what else he directed or wrote?
Something that I was unhappy with because I remember thinking about it a couple weeks ago.
Firestarter.
There we go. That's what it was. Yep.
So yeah, no, it's a little his track record's pretty rough, not gonna lie. I mean, we did like Insidious. We were pretty
Yeah.
surprised by that. Again, everybody else was kind of like, no, that movie was not great, but and he is responsible for Exorcist Believer here. He is writing that. So I guess yeah, we'll just have to see. And there is a runtime out already.
Oh shit.
2 hours 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah, but it looks like, oh fuck me. God
Yeah.
damn it. Why can't we just have these nice
Digestible films.
I don't know who Peter Sattler is, but he's also attached to this for writing. Let me see what he's done.
And for this, I
Camp
don't have a problem.
X-Ray.
What was it?
Camp X-Ray with
Oh.
fucking Kristen Stewart from
Okay.
2007 or whatever.
Not familiar, but I have no problems with 2-hour runtimes for films, but especially knowing that this is going to be a trilogy. And I'm gonna guess that, the next two are gonna follow suit, where there at least be 2 hours. That's a 6 hours worth of The Exorcist in terms of, elongating the franchise. That is a lot to do. So,
Yeah.
if we were looking at an hour 30, hour 40, maybe, for the first one at least, the last installments tend to be a little bit longer because they try to get in as much as possible. So I could even see that one being 2+ hours. That's a lot of storytelling.
Absolutely. And then, so yeah, we'll just kind of run out the last couple of minutes here, the good imagery that we like, and then we'll kind of wrap this up because, yeah, we've just kind of ended up talking more about our
Yeah.
disappointments and things. Again, good imagery. I kind of like the green coming off around there. They're really playing into that whole Exorcist green stuff. It's like I do like this. I think that this is a cool stylistic approach to it. It adds that creep factor.
Yeah.
Especially that image, if I can get it perfectly. Let me see. Yeah, it's like that's good
Yeah.
shit.
It
That's
looks great.
creepy. I like that. Uh, you know, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, wouldn't that just be awful if this is the last like couple of frames of the movie where
Yeah.
they end it with it going black and white, and this is like the last frame before we go dark? It's like, dude, that'd be so frustrating. I hope that that's just for the trailer, but again, we're only comparing his previous works of like Halloween and to this, so it's like we weren't big on that.
Yeah.
I want to be blown away. I really do. And do I expect to be? No, but do I
We
expect
always
to
hope.
maybe be more favorable with this one? I hope. I really do.
Yeah.
It's not a huge high bar that it has to hit, but it's something that I am still looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And
And it's like going into 2018, Halloween 2018, and knowing David Gordon Green was going to be directing that. I think expectations were a little bit higher. We enjoy that franchise. having him behind the camera as well as writing, it was like, okay, so they're actually putting care into this. It just wasn't a random person that they threw behind the camera. I think, for The Exorcist here, my expectations have completely recalibrated in terms of like what to expect going into this. And again, we're not married to the franchise at all. So the only thing I can hope for is to be entertained. But with these types of films, they tend to drag a little bit. So I'm hoping he can keep that pacing up. Again, the ending of the trailer there really piqued my interest, but I don't think they're going to be able to sustain that for a 2-hour runtime. So I'm just hoping that they can facilitate those, scenes from one to the next in that storytelling so that I don't feel like I've been in the theater for 3 hours when I've only been there for one so far.
Yeah. And honestly, like thinking about this now, um I think I would have been a little more excited to see more of a unique voice attached to this franchise so far. Like, could you imagine just like seeing that final imagery, like what like a Kyle Edward Ball would
Yeah.
do with The Exorcist, and just like because he really tapped into that fear angle with Skinamarink, and I know that if you've seen our trailer for Sycophant and everything, he's a huge influence to us. Like we love him and Robbie and all those people who've been really releasing these great independent horrors recently. So it might seem kind of easy, but like even him or like a Robert Eggers or somebody attach themselves to this material. Like now that I'm thinking about it, Robert Eggers,
Yeah.
like he's already kind of played into that whole supernatural possession stuff with the witch. So it's kind of like, oof, like what he could have done to tell this story, would have been really interesting to see.
Yeah, in terms of storytelling, I think you have those filmmakers that want to look at a property that's already established and kind of outline their version of it and say this is what we're going to go with. Whereas you have other filmmakers that are like, okay, so this is the original. Let me do the opposite of that, but using the kind of themes that are in that original. And I think that's the way to go with The Exorcist, where it's like to tell a completely unique and different story rather than outlining the original and trying to follow those similar beats.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But alrighty, guys, I think that's gonna wrap us up here for our Exorcist believer talk. It's I'm sorry we don't want to be too downtrodden with this. We don't want to be too like negative, but it's just kind of like what have you done for me lately as far as David Gordon Green goes, and also just where the state of these big budget horror films have been recently. And I think that the Halloween 2018 resurgence, there was a lot of excitement back there. And then ever since, it's just been kind of very few and far between that we've had big tentpole like franchise films that have really, satisfied. And I can think the only one that's really kind of blown me away as of recently was, Evil Dead Rise, as far as big tentpoles go for established franchises. So, it's one of those things where I'm just kind of like, okay, we'll see what happens. We are obviously going to be checking this out, and I think it's pretty safe to say we'll probably talk about at least the first Exorcist, maybe a couple of the sequels leading up to it. But yeah, I think that we'll keep on covering Exorcist Believer as we get closer. Keep on talking stories on the Sunday Scaries, and if we feel it's necessary to discuss whatever the next trailer is, we might. But I don't want to hold us to that.
Yeah, we'll see what the future holds. We're definitely be checking this out. This will be smack dab in the middle of Splatterthon. So, of course,
Yes,
if it's horror, it's not going to be escaping us in the month of October. And we'll probably check out some of the other installments prior to seeing this one, just because our boy Evan speaks highly of the third installment. So
absolutely.
we got to put
So.
that on the agenda and maybe get him on to discuss it a little bit. But again, this one, the ending has me intrigued, but overall, I really suspect to be feeling the runtime here in the theater.
All righty. All righty, guys. So until next time, definitely, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'm starting to find out that the like button is kind of what gets, more people's eyes on it, pops up in recommendations. So yeah, slash that like button and, let us know what you guys think of The Exorcist Believer. And of course, we're going to have more content dropping. We just had our review for Bury Me Twice, the new Stephen Lamort film. So check that out. A lot of fun there. And of course, I already mentioned it, but I will plug it again. You can check out our 50-second trailer for our short film, that'll be releasing sometime here in the next couple months. Sycophant, which we took some time off to make, and we're very excited to share with you guys. So, alrighty, until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.